So I had a viewer leave a thoughtful comment, and they seemed genuinely curious, and I do appreciate genuine curiosity. Um, and so they left three specific points, and I'd like to take a quick minute from Cutting Steel to address at least the first point at this point. Um, I know the terms free will and slave might seem to contradict one another. But I think if we change the concept of master, then we also change the concept of slave. If instead of a master being a human who has enslaved another human to force that other said human to do what one human's wicked ways said to do, but instead it was an almighty God who loves every human who's ever lived on this planet and merely wants what's best for his creation, I think that changes the concept of slave. And it won't change the definition of the word slave via Webster or Oxford. But I think oftentimes our concept of the word actually means more to us than what Webster or Oxford say. We, our fleshly, human, mortal selves, don't like the idea of being forced. Being forced has a lot of negative connotations to it. But what if, by being forced to work for and obey an almighty God that loves you and only wants what's best for his creation, actually led to you being fruitful and multiplying? Why would that be bad? Now, why do I believe it's beneficial for at least myself to adopt a slave mentality towards an almighty God? Because sometimes it's easy. Sometimes God's ways are easy. Don't go be a genocidal psychopath. That's just relatively easy. Sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it's hard when, as a happily married man, there's the pretty lady running down the street, and you might lull yourself into thinking, oh no, it's arbitrary, it doesn't mean anything, but it matters to God. In the eyes of God, it's wicked. Accepting that God's ways are superior to ours and always at all times. Adopting that mentality brings you closer to God. And so when I say slave, people think of chains and whips. And I think of peace, love, joy, patience, kindness, steadfast, long-suffering, self-control. These things. These are the things that God forces man to do. Demands and commands that they obey these things. It's not some genocidal psychopathic man saying, go do this to these people. That's not to say there wasn't a time, but we're not in that time anymore. So, a quick response. The terms free will and slave might seem to contradict one another, but I think once we adopt the concept of an almighty God master who loves us, that changes the concept of being a slave, that changes our concept of being forced, and the preconceived negative connotations that come with being forced. And that's why I can happily say that I want and I desire to be a slave to an almighty God. But I have the free will to choose not to. So by definition, maybe not. But the conception that I am working hard to adopt is very true and very real. I hope this at least explains why I think that they're not contradictory, even if by definition they may be. I love y'all. Take care. Be blessed.